Good morning. I indeed have decided to carry this day 5 live. So come on in. Day 5 of Georgia versus Hannah Payne. It is early here on the West Coast and cold as well. So, I don't understand why it's not showing up. There it is. Okay. And I am sharing it on my community tab so people know I'm live. Not quite yet. They're getting ready to go. Everybody's getting in their places. I hope everyone is having a lovely morning or whatever it is, wherever you are. But most likely, it's unlikely for people outside of the U.S. to be here interested in this case. But anyway.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the
Okay.
jury. Trust you had a good night. Just a reminder, I know it's been a long, arduous week, but when the court says 9 o'clock, we intend to begin at 9. And so just encouraging compliance with our time frames. Thank you. When we broke yesterday evening, the state was about to present rebuttal testimony. And so we're going to give the
Good
state
morning,
an
Marie.
opportunity to do so and call its witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state calls Keon Hayward. And if you would please remain standing and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give before the court in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
You can take your hand down and have a seat. If you would please make sure you're moved up and speaking into the microphone. If you would introduce yourself to the jurors, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Keon Hayward.
And could you spell your name for the court reporter?
Keon, Keon, Hayward, Hayward.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed with Quick Trip Corporate in their division of protective services.
So working security at Quick Trip.
Correct.
And where are they based?
I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. And did you travel back here for this case?
Correct.
Back in May of 2019, how were you employed?
With the Clayton County Police Department.
And describe your experience in law enforcement, your experience in training that qualified you to work for the Clayton County Police Department.
I was certified through the basic law enforcement here in the state of Georgia, and I worked there as a uniformed police officer for 3 years, and then I worked in the criminal investigations division and major felonies for 3 years.
So back in May of 2019, were you a detective assigned to work the case involving the defendant, Hannah Payne?
Correct.
Interesting.
Just to kind of go a little bit about through some of the things that you did for this case. Did you respond to the actual scene where the shooting took place?
Correct.
And is that scene located in Clayton County?
Yes.
And did you also gather evidence?
Correct.
In this case, did you instruct certain witnesses to be interviewed?
Correct.
And photographs to be taken?
Yes.
Was one of the things that you did in this particular case was to conduct an interview of the defendant, Hannah Payne, at the Clayton County Police Department?
Yes.
And were you aware that she had been transported to the Clayton County Police Department in the back of a patrol vehicle and in handcuffs?
Yes.
Therefore, did you advise the defendant of her Miranda warnings?
Yes.
And did you do that using a written document?
Correct.
witness with what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit number 38?
You may.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 38, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
With my name and signature, and the list of the Miranda rights also signed by Ms. Payne.
And that's a copy of the original. Is the original of these documents, is it always kept in records at the police department?
Yes.
And is there anything that about State's Exhibit number 38 that has been altered or deleted in any way?
No.
Good
State's
morning.
Exhibit number 38.
Any objection?
No objection, no.
And proceed without objection.
And when you have a person that you're interviewing go through these rights, is it often that you have them put a time on what time they have signed this waiver?
Yes.
What time did the defendant sign her waiver, and what time did she begin speaking to you in this case?
At 8:47 p.m.
On the day that the incident occurred, May 7th?
Correct.
If you would, please indicate the first right that you advised the defendant that she had.
She was advised that she had the right to remain silent.
And did she initial next to that indicating her understanding?
Yes.
The second one?
Anything she said can and will be used against her in the court of law.
And did she initial that?
Correct.
Indicating her understanding? Yes?
Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
And right number 3?
You have the right to remain, you have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned.
Number 4?
And if you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish.
And number 5?
And if you decide at any time to exercise these rights, not answer any questions or make any statements.
And did she initial all 5 of those indicating her understanding of what she was being advised?
She did.
And the statement indicating I have been advised of my rights and I understand each of those rights, did she also provide her signature acknowledging that as well?
Yes.
There isn't any.
See how much more tense they all look today?
In order to get the defendant to sign that Miranda waiver, was she threatened in any way?
No.
Was she promised anything?
No.
Was she offered any hope of benefit whatsoever?
No.
And based on your observations of the defendant on scene, did she appear to be signing that Miranda waiver freely and voluntarily?
Correct.
Did she appear, based on your observations, to understand the questions that were being asked and the things that were being discussed?
Yes.
And also, based on your observations of the defendant, did she appear to understand why she was being interviewed?
Yes.
And once you advised the defendant of her rights, did she indicate to you that she would speak to you?
Correct.
During the course of that interview, did the defendant ever invoke her right to remain silent?
No.
Did the defendant ever invoke her right to counsel during the portion of your interview?
No.
And again, in order to speak to you, was the defendant threatened in any way?
Not at all. No.
And have you had an opportunity to rewatch the defendant's interview?
Yes.
And based on your observation of that, did the interview contain exactly your conversation with the defendant on May the 7th of 2019?
Yes.
Sounds like they're about to mount a perjury claim or something.
A little bit about how the interview room worked at the Clayton County Police Department back in May of 2019.
Yes. Typically, the interview will be comprised of the individual being questioned and 2 detectives will sit in and ask the questioning at a table. It is recorded, audio and visually recorded, and we have conversation. We ask questions in regards to the matters of the case, and that person respond.
And the things that are being recorded, would you then have any ability to go in and change anything or anything like that?
No, I don't have any ability to alter that.
And have you watched various interviews that have taken place in those interview rooms?
Yes.
And are you aware that even though you can't alter it, sometimes the audio and the video are like a second off from each other
Yes.
when you watch it?
Yes.
And you this week had an opportunity to rewatch the interview, is that correct?
Correct.
Right at this time, the state is going to tender State's Exhibit number 39 with the exceptions of the things that we discussed at the bench that we will place on the record.
Any objection?
The same objections we had at the bench when we talked about it, about things that were being admitted, and I think we agreed that certain things would not be discussed And as long as everybody follows those guidelines, I would have no objection.
Okay, admitted without objection.
I think this witness, I like the way he's dressed. He looks really sharp.
Permission to publish, Judge?
Yes, he may publish.
And Judge, if I can just note, as we discussed, there are some times when the defendant is alone in the room that we're not just gonna watch her sit there for 45 minutes. So
Correct.
we have, both sides have agreed to move it forward. And there are a couple of other sections that have been by agreement.
Look at her lawyer.
That aren't going to be admitted that we will move forward as well.
Correct.
Her lawyer has something to say about that. She looks like she's about to burst into tears, don't you think? Yeah. Yeah, I can sense that tension too between them. Took her a second to look at him even when he started to talk to her. It's like they walked in defensively. They looked defensive. That yesterday was just a bad day for them. It was just a bad day. I'm turning up the volume a little on the audio, but man, that sound is terrible. I think it says Cherokee Trauma Punks.
One of the moments where we're forwarding where she's alone. Okay.
Just make sure that there's a big gap that you describe how long the gap is.
I think she just placed it on the record, but you can again.
I just moved the times. I can't tell you exactly where I stopped, but we're moving forward. She came into the room at 7:37:56. We watched 15 or 20 seconds, and we're moving forward to 7:53:40.
Yeah, he is. He's like a character. Like I said, I can't look at that. I can't look at her lawyer without seeing this guy.
7:53:33, which is the closest I can get.
Polly Walnuts. It'll be interesting. I mean, yesterday one of the glaring things was that she didn't say that she asked how is the victim, how is Mr. Herring. So it'll be interesting to see if we see any even glimpse of that. Yikes. She is chomping those nails. That looks like it hurts like hell. She definitely put on that pink sweatshirt before getting into the squad car because that's what she was wearing when they showed her being in the squad car. And you could see when she was in the squad car, you could see her the black t-shirt like poking out from under it. Or black blouse, whatever it was. It looked like it was kind of thin. This was in May, so it was like spring-ish. Spring going into summer. I think she said, if I remember correctly, they said she had acrylic nails and they started to get torn off. So I think she might be like tearing off. Hello, Bogart. I think she might be tearing off her acrylic nails right now. And a long, long time ago, I had acrylic nails. And that's freaking painful. Now, I think they're a lot different now, fake nails, but it is painful to take off your nails, and it like takes off like a layer of your own nails. So it looks like that might be what she's working on there.
7:57. Detective Hayward, for the record, the minutes that we've just watched, were you able
Hey,
to
Chef.
observe the defendant removing her own fingernails and putting fake fingernails and putting them in her pocket?
Correct.
Oh, I was
Will
right.
she continue to do that until they're all gone?
Correct.
Judge, at this time, we're going to move forward until 8:30. The defendant is alone in the room until.
Hey, Amelia.
Okay.
If y'all remember yesterday, she said, I waited such a long time for them. I was in there so long. I was in there so very long. So
And you're okay? I'm sure you're not. More, this is Detective Hayward, you met him, have you met him yet? Have you ever watched, like, on TV or anything like that? So you know, before we talk to you, we're gonna read this for a second, okay? So if you understand what I'm saying, I just want you to, initial the fact when I read you, okay? How old are you, man? Okay. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can will be used against you in court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer, and have them present with you while you're being questioned.
please remember to hit the like.
Our lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statement. Read the next line for me, please. And if you understand what we just talked about up here, what you just read, sign right there, and then the date and time. It is 5/7/19. It is 8:47. Before we get into anything, I just want to ask some background. I know they probably already have your information, but I don't. I'm just now meeting you for the first time. What's your name? Hannah, H-A-N-N-A-H. Payne, P-A-Y-N-E. What's your date of birth? 05/15/1997.
Thank you, Amelia.
Your address? 315 Claire, C-L-A-I-R-E Avenue. Fayetteville. 1514.
Oh, that's interesting, Bogart. Where'd the sound go?
It's a management company called Triship, TRISHIP Partners LLC. Where is that? The home office is in Hayesville. Okay. So you're in on board today? Okay. How roughly what hours walking you on that? I had gotten off of work, I was going home, and I was coming down Clark House, turning left onto Fourth Parkway. There was a semi that was in the lane to the right of me, and he was a little bit further in the intersection than I was. The light was green for us. And out of nowhere, this guy came down through the intersection, and luckily I stopped barely in time, but he ran into the semi. Then y'all are on Clark Howell, and you're trying to come out on the Fourth Parkway. And he came straight through. The police have to rush like from 85 in Riverdale or from Riverdale? From 85 in Riverdale. Okay, I got you. Okay, go ahead. And so after I realized what had happened, I was able to go around him, and I pulled up on the sidewalk and I parked. So I called the police. I got out and I walked over to see if everyone was okay. I was talking to the truck driver and another witness who was also a police officer who saw everything happen. And the guy who was driving the truck ended up getting out and was just kind of like looking around, like, well, what happened? He said, someone hit me.
Me too, Bogart.
He just ran the red light, and he was kind of stumbling and walking out in the middle of traffic. And after about 20 minutes had gone by, I went back across the street and I was calling my parents. I kind of had a realization that I just had to take a chance at life, that I felt I was scared. So I called my parents and I told them what happened. And while I was standing over there, when I called back, I realized it had been over 20 minutes. And I told the dispatch that he was sitting in his truck and he was revving the engine. And it looked like he was going to pull away. And at that time, he did. He took off. Okay. So I got in my Jeep and I followed him. And I told the dispatch that I was following him. And she told me that she didn't advise it. And I told her that I'm just getting his tag number. I got the tag number by the time we got to the end of, right when I got to Riverdale Road. And we came around that curve, and I had an opportunity to get in front of him. Okay. I got in front of him, and I stopped in front of him. I got out, and I was on the phone with him. I told him, I was like, you need to stop, you need to pull over. And he's like, who are you, and who are you? And I'm like, I'm just no one, but I'm on the phone with the police. And that's when I was like right there for him, like, you know, who are you, who are you? I got something for you. I'm like, okay, I said, I'm just telling you, you need to stop, and you need to pull over. And that's when I had this my phone in my hand, and I told him, I was like, you need to stop, and I'm right there by the door at this point. He reaches out and kind of like hit my phone out and grabbed my wrist. Okay. He grabbed my wrist. We kind of started going back and forth, fighting, and that's when he punched the gas and he ran into my tire. And he's telling me the whole time, you know, oh, well, I don't know who you are, blah, blah, blah. And he was laying back, going to pull me, I got something for you reaching. And I don't know if he's reaching, I wasn't watching him, I was trying to pull away from him. And I had got him off of me, but he had my shirt, and that's when he ripped my shirt. He was pulling it, I have it underneath. Okay. All right. So then he just got away with it. Okay. I just want to see that, and go out, we have somebody. Okay. Yes. He's pulling at it, and that's when I told him, after he's reaching, I told him, I said, I have a gun, I said, and I will shoot you. And that's when I reached for it. And because I hadn't reached for it and touched for it the entire time, I reached for it, I pulled it out, and that's when he when I pulled away from him is when, because my shirt ripped. It's not that he let go. I had it out at that point. He was still coming at me, still yelling at me, I got something for you, you know, you're gonna shoot me, then shoot me, do it. And he went forward on the door, and I pushed it forward with my knee, went back forward, pushed it forward, thinking he was trying to get out, and I told him, no. Did the door open at all, or did it not open? He was pushing at it, like he reached down, he went like this. Okay. So honestly, I don't know if it opened or not, but I could hear him grabbing his door handle. I could hear it, like just pulling at it. And so that's when I pushed the door forward and he grabbed my hand and we were going back and forth. I didn't have my hand on the trigger, but we were going back and forth and he was
Hand on the
holding
trigger.
it and he was twisting it, and then that's when I actually got my grip on it. And he was turning it and it got faced almost all the way around when I pulled it back, and he lunged again, like with one hand on me, and he lunged and he swung and he grabbed, like right here on the back of my shirt. And when he grabbed is when I honestly know. I don't
You just stopped
remember
yourself
telling
short of
myself
saying she.
to pull the trigger. It just. So you had your finger on the trigger? Yeah. So when you're holding the gun. Yeah, so I had it inside. How it's like this, I had it like, originally I was holding it like this. Okay. I didn't have it inside, but he's reaching and turning and twisting, and as he's turning it, he's, pulling and we're going back and forth. So of course, I bought it for protection. Mm-hmm. Not that I have any intentions on ever trying to use it, but I was trying to get prepared for whatever I needed to be prepared for, thinking I'd be able to pull away and then just go, get away from him, and that's not how it happened. So when he was pulling at me, and that's when my finger, I put it on the trigger, and he's pulling and pulling. And before this day, have you ever seen that man before in a, No, I've never. I know it's probably hard for me to talk about, but we just had to slow it down. You told us what happened, but I just thing by thing by thing. So you pull around and you stop in front of him, and what happens? He stops behind you? Yeah. How far between the cars would you say? Close, far, maybe almost the length of the table? Okay. And then what happens then? Then that's when I was on the phone and dispatch him, and he was asking me, he's like, who are you, and I told him. So you're out of the car every time? Yeah, I just walked around and told him, you need to stop. Okay, so you need to pull over. Which side of the car were you on? I was on his driver's side, and I was at the back of my car. So y'all on the right side of the road. I'm just trying to, because I know that intersection lot, so it's like when you come around and you get on 285. So before the ramp. Yeah, okay, so you're right in front of him. That's kind of a carpool area. Gotcha. Right there. Okay. And he was right here, and I had come around, and I was right here. Okay. And when I stopped, I got out and I walked around. Okay. Telling dispatch, I'm on the phone, I was on the phone with her, and I told her, I said, I'm here, I said, he stopped. And I told him, you need to stop. Okay. And he's just like, who are you? I said, I'm no one, but I'm on the phone with dispatch. I'm on the phone with the police, you need to stop. You just caused that accident. And he goes, yeah, okay, I got something for you, and that's when he pulled forward. So at this time, it was just words being exchanged, there was no contact at all yet? Right. Okay, so he pulled forward how? His car went how far forward? All the way forward to my Jeep. So it struck your Jeep? It did, yeah. Okay. You said it struck the wheel, it struck the wheel, or that wheel on the back, No, the wheel on the side of the Jeep. The actual, okay. And that's when I was telling him, you need to stop. Mm-hmm. That's when he was reaching. Okay. He hit my hand. I don't know if he did it intentionally trying to throw my phone. So you're standing, these are two cars, this is the car. Mm-hmm. And he's inside the car here, you're standing right at his passenger. Right here, this is where my car was right here. You're with an angle in front of him. Okay, so you're angled in, he's here. Yeah, okay, so you're standing right here.
Where the volume went, Josh.
I mean, based on that, she lied like a rug on stand yesterday.
Are we gonna need some assistance from IT?
Try it again. I don't know why it just went suddenly silent.
I mean,
I believe you had the transcripts yesterday.
and she knows it.
I think for some reason they come back and just you have it.
And now he's saying the transcripts that were read yesterday are different from.
I called for some assistance.
Yes, okay, so you're standing right here. I came around, I was standing right here, and that's when he went forward and he hit it, and I told him, whoa, I said, "Look, you need to stop." I'm like, "You're right, the police are right here," and you just need to stop, okay, I got something for you, and I'm telling him, and of course, I'm telling him, from a distance, but I'm telling him, just stop, just stop. So at this point, you're saying stop, no gun in, no nothing? No nothing, yeah. Stop, okay. And that's when, because I had my phone in my hand, okay. Dispatch. And so that's when, of course, I'm closer to the car now, partially because he's going forward and partially because I went forward. Okay. And he's telling me, he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I got something for you, which is when he hit it. When I got closer, I was telling him, you need to stop. I'm telling the lady on the phone, of course, I can't hear her because I have her on speaker and all this is going on around me. And that's when me and him, he swung at my hand and he grabbed me by my wrist and he pulled me in. So does that sound someone gun out? No. Phone in hand. Right. He swung it. Hit me how he hit you. You're holding like the phone like this? That's what it was, I had it in my right hand. Okay. Yeah, and he's right here. Okay. Don't hit me, but. Right, well, with this hand, I'm telling you to use it. Okay. And he's just like, he went like this, and then he grabbed me, and. He grabbed which hand? My right hand, I'm sorry, my left hand. The ball, not the phone. Not the phone, right. Well, when he did, which honestly, I don't know what hand, how he lunged it first, but when he lunged, it hit my phone. So it knocked it out of my hand, and he grabbed it. Knocked it out the ground? Yeah. Okay. And it shattered the screen. Okay. And then he grabbed me. How? He was like this. Okay. And that's when me and him were going back and forth. Okay. But it was more me in the vehicle than it was him out because he's pulling at me, he's tugging. Okay. So he's pulling, we're going back and forth, he's hitting, he's swinging. I'm trying to hit, but I'm also trying to pull away because the only thing that I know for protecting me and this man is what I have on me. Mm-hmm. Now, by this point, I'm telling him, that's what I'm telling him, I have a gun. I said, and I will shoot you. And I'm pulling. This hand was free. I'm trying to just get away to get my phone. Mm-hmm. I couldn't. So then, that's when he's saying, yeah, okay, I got something for you. Something about, I don't even know who the F you are, you're nobody or whatever. And that's when I pulled it out because he's leaning, saying, I got something for you. This is it, he still had my hand. Okay. He's saying, I got something for you. And you're leaning back away from the car? Yeah, I'm being pulled in, but I'm trying to pull away, and that's when I pulled it out. Okay. And I told him, I said, I said, you need to stop, that I had a gun, and I was shooting. He's like, yeah, okay, shoot me. And that's when he lunged, he let me go, but he lunged, pushes the door open. Okay. Which is when I thought he was pushing the door open. He leaned forward, and he's reaching again, and when he grabbed my shirt, and it ripped it. Okay. So then when he's reaching I already had it forward, reaching and it ripped, and I'm thinking here is when I'm trying to say I'm going to get away with the door thing. Mm-hmm. He grabs my hand with the gun. Okay. We're wrestling with it inside, and that's when he's turning it, and I managed to get it back towards him, and that's when it went off. Okay. So you pull up the gun. You're right hand or left? I'm right. So you got it sealed on your right side. Right side. Okay. So you pull up the gun and what happens? So he still got a hold of you, or he does not hold of you? He still has a hold of my hand when I pulled it out. Okay. But then that's when he lunges. He didn't lunge, but he grabbed the door. Okay. So he grabbed the door. Is he still holding you, or is he let go now? He's still holding me in the beginning. Okay. In the very beginning, which is when he grabbed the door. Okay. He goes to push the door open, and when I got away, but he had my shirt. Okay. And that's when my shirt was ripped. take your time, you need to take it. I never thought I would. Nobody ever does. Okay. And, okay. So I had it in my hand at this point. Okay. Are you pointing it yet, or are you, where is it? Is the point gonna point it at him? It's up, like this is the window, and I pulled it out like this, trying to get him away from, trying to get off. He still has a hole in my shirt. When he pulled away from the shirt is when the door happened. Okay. I pushed the door with my knee, and do you think the door opened at all? I went forward when I pushed it, which is why the door was open. It kind of open. Okay. I mean, and that's where all the marks came from on my jeans, because the outside of the car. Did the photographer take pictures of you? No. Okay, we're gonna need to have it, take pictures. Okay, so he was, by the time, when he still had me, when I pulled it out, and I'm telling him, he's like, yeah, shoot me, I got something for you. And then I was up, I pulled it up, and that's when he had a hold of my shirt ripped. He grabbed the gun. And then hold the gun, grab the gun, you were again. Grab the gun. So he's trying to turn like this, and I'm trying to push up against the door. After my shirt was ripped, he went like this. Okay. And he was pulling at it, but my hands were just on the side, and yeah, so he's pulling at it, and he's pulling at the trigger area, in the trigger. His hand is in the trigger guard? His hand is in the trigger guard, yeah. Okay. And that, I mean, the specific reason why I bought the one that I bought was because it had the double safety mechanism. Right. So I wasn't too worried, I guess, because I didn't have my hand all the way on that. On the back, I could tell. Okay. So he's pulling at it.
Maybe trauma.
He's going like this, and he's turning it. Turning away from himself. Yeah, and he's trying to, and that's when he grabbed it. My fingers and his fingers were both in it, and he's trying to pull it. And that's when I'm trying to pull my hand out, but I'm not trying to leave the gun there, obviously. Right. So he was pulling it and turning it, and that's when I was able to kind of just like yank it back towards him, and he had it like this. And he said, yeah, just shoot me. And that's when he lunged. He still had a hold of my hand right here. With the gun? Yeah, okay. My hand. And he lunged, and that's when. Okay. Yeah. Now, do you think that he pulled the trigger, or do you think that you pulled the trigger? What I told them originally was that I felt like he did. Because I did not have my finger. I know about the double safety mechanism, so that's why I specifically did not have my finger on the trigger. Okay. Now, when I pulled it back around, after he was, tugging at me and he lunged, he still had his hand on it, and I had my hand in on it. Okay. But it was more so of a matter of force instead of me saying, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger. Okay. And you're talking about the double safety, I'm not familiar with what kind of safety you're talking about. Okay. When you're talking about it, is it like a double trigger? It's like trigger and then another trigger, and you have to pull them both back in order to. Okay.
They've been talking for a good 15 minutes, and she hasn't asked about him once.
Switch, like safety switch. When you grab it, right? Yeah, it's like almost like a. I don't know. Yeah, the gun is going to be. Oh, you're not pressing that. You don't push it with. Right. This part, if you're not actually holding it properly, it's not going to. Which, when he first had it turned, I heard it click, like the trigger was pulled.
It's like she feels like he deserved it.
Before I had my finger pulled down, because I didn't have my finger on that back part, it didn't do anything. Gotcha. So he's pulling and he's fighting, and that's when I put my finger on the trigger, and he still had his hands on my hand, so that way both of our hands was in the, I don't know, the trigger. The trigger guard? Trigger, yeah. Like a little circle or thing? Yeah, okay. And that's, I'm pulling, and that's when it went off. Okay. Never seen this thing before? No. Okay. Will you write me a statement saying what you just told me? Three questions. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
part about because you sound like you're saying you grabbing 3 things at one time. The door, your shirt, and his gun. I'm not understanding how you can grab all 3 at one time. So make that more clear to me.
So the first thing that he grabbed was my hand, with his right hand.
Okay, at this point, there's something on you.
There's no,
Not at
no, it's not out.
Right. All right,
But
first
he
thing you
grabbed-
grab is your shirt. Where at your shirt?
No, not my shirt, he grabbed my hand.
Okay, grab your wrist.
Yeah, with his right, he grabbed my left wrist with his right hand.
Okay.
And that's when me and him were fighting, going back and forth, hitting. And that's when he's telling me, he's like, okay, well, I got something for you, and he's twisting and turning, and he's leaning back. So then, after that is when I told him that I had a gun.
All right, let me go back to where the wrist is grabbing. At what point were you inside? Was your arms inside of the vehicle? Or did he have to lean out of the window to grab you?
He had to lean out, because I was right at the window, so it wasn't,
Were your arms right from the window when you was talking to him?
no.
What was your hands doing besides the cell phone? What was his hands doing?
So if this is the window,
Mm-hmm.
and this is inside the car, I'm telling him, you need to stop, because my hand's right here, and I'm on the phone with the police.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wasn't,
Was he stopping at that point? The vehicle?
yes,
So why did you say I tell him to stop if he stopped?
he wasn't in park,
Mm-hmm.
and he never turned off the vehicle, and it wasn't a matter of like he was, I guess, not complying, but he was just saying, and it wasn't necessarily that he was inching, but like he was just saying, no, I'm not, I have something, I don't even know who you are, who are you? And I told him,
Okay.
I was no one.
So what was your response to that?
When he, to what?
I don't know who you are.
That's when I told him, I said, I'm no one. I said, but I'm on the phone with the police.
Okay.
I said, and they're telling you to stop.
And when you responded to that, what are you doing? Are you still moving? Are you talking with your hands? Are you still moving with your hands? Are you
Yeah, I'm
still
telling you.
holding the stop? Are you pointing? I'm trying to understand. Somebody's sitting in the truck.
Right.
You're standing outside. Out in their right hand, reach across, grab your gun. So trying to figure out you being partially inside of that vehicle already.
I mean, I was close, but
Okay.
I wasn't leaning forward. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't.
So you were just.
Right. And that's when he's saying, I don't know who you are. And that's when he reached forward, like he was swinging almost.
Like trying to swing and hit you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's when he grabbed me. And that's what I thought he was going to do. I thought he was going to hit me. So I was just willing to just trying to take the hit and thinking it was going to go past that. And I was still on the phone with the police. And I could see the police car.
Mm-hmm.
So but instead of swinging, when he swung with that hand,
His right hand?
I'm sorry, yes, when he swung with his right, when I was thinking he was swinging with his right hand, is when he grabbed my wrist.
Okay.
But before he grabbed my wrist, there was a motion with I think it was his left hand. There's no way that he could have motioned it over here with his right hand. Did I see it with 2 different hands? No, but I'm looking at him.
What kind of motion?
Like he was like telling me like to
Get away.
basically, yeah, like no, I'm not stopping, I'm not. He's like, no, I don't know who you are, you're not no one, you're no one.
So he's like motionless and like get away from me. Like kind of like get away, I don't know who you are.
But that's what I'm saying, I don't know if it was a getaway or if it was a trying to hit the phone out of my hand. Cause I'm going like this to him, I'm on the phone with them right now.
So you like explain the screen to him?
Yeah.
How you looking at him?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point you stick are you with your hand more so inside the truck or is it the outside?
Closer.
Okay.
I don't think I was in the truck too.
I got you. I think you're in the truck like this.
No, I know.
It's a lower truck. I saw the vehicle. I saw everything was parked at the end. So before how close your vehicles were, you were saying there was a little bit more distance. All right. So prior to that distance, all this is when this all happens, right? You grab your hand before pulling off, or did you grab your hand after?
He grabbed my hand before.
All right. So this is grabbing your hand before.
Mm-hmm. And while he has my hand, and we're going back and forth and we're fighting and whatever.
All right.
My phone had already fallen out the sheet.
Okay.
Falling out my hand.
Mhm.
And that's when he's saying, I got something for you. And
Oh, it fell out.
Okay. I got something for you. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
While still holding on to you.
Right, but
All right.
yes. And then that's when I reached back.
the arrest.
Right.
Then I got something for you where the vehicle was moved forward
Right.
while still holding you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. At what point does the door open?
I went with the vehicle when
Well,
it moved forward.
How did the vehicle stop? Did he just stop or did you?
No, it didn't stop. He didn't stop. It went into the car. Was he driving it forward or was he, did he have to, what was the damage on the vehicle was for? One hand was with me. On your shirt or on your? That was with my wrist. Okay. Yeah. And then. Did he move, did he turn to drive the vehicle away or did he? I mean, did his foot slip off the brake and it moved? No, because you can hear it, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that's right, trauma.
So he's holding you with his right hand and he moved forward. I guess it's might move driving forward.
He didn't reach forward for the.
Steering wheel?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. When you just heard the engine rev.
Okay. Did at any point he shut off his vehicle?
No.
So the car should have still been driving by the time police got there?
To be honest, I don't know.
Do you remember him reaching over the gear shift to park it or to do anything? Or did he have to reach in and turn his car off or something like
The
that?
only time that he reached was when he's saying, I got something for you, after he let
Yeah,
go.
when he was reaching the back, side, front, where was he reaching at?
I saw his arm go this way.
Go like towards the back?
Yeah,
Okay.
toward almost turned diagonal.
Okay,
But
I got you.
Yeah.
Like, kind of,
it could have been to the back, it could have been behind, underneath, to the side.
I got
It could have been to the gear shift,
you. Mm-hmm.
with you saying it now, but he's saying, after I had said, I have a gun,
Mm-hmm.
he said, oh, and he's saying still, I got something for you, and he reaches.
But the first time you said I got something for you, he just moved the vehicle.
Right.
There was no reaching for no weapon or anything at that time, just moving up the vehicle. All right, so at this point, after you grab your arm, I have something for you, strikes your vehicle, what happens next?
Then my wrist, I pulled my wrist away,
So
but
you gotta get away from him.
yeah, I had already had my gun pulled out,
All right, so where did you remove your gun from?
a concealed holster.
So you have a steel holster on your right hip?
Mhm.
Okay.
So I pulled it out,
Mm-hmm. And when you pulled it out, what did you do with that gun?
I loaded it,
All right, so you racked the chamber.
I did, yeah,
Okay.
which is when he had my shirt.
So at this time, he's now grabbing your shirt.
Mhm.
So you was able to get away, snatch away from him with your left wrist. And immediately, did he grab your shirt or was there some separation at some point?
There was a minimal amount of separation.
Uh-huh.
From the wrist, I had the gun out. When I pulled it away, it was a one movement.
Uh-huh.
I was still within a couple inches of even if that, of his door. And that's when he's pushing open the door.
All right, why didn't you didn't have enough time to retreat, to run away to your vehicle?
That's what I had intended on doing after I took out my gun.
Okay.
But that's what I'm saying, that's when he pulled out. That was where the lean happened, the reach, I got something for you, he's pushing open the door, and that's when I pushed up against the door. I had it in my hand, I wasn't holding it back, but I had it in my hand, and I'm at the window with my gun in my hand.
So we gotta reach back, also open the door, but you gotta lean kind of forward. But you close that, all right?
After
You shut the door?
the reach, it wasn't a matter of him just like staying over here. He was reaching, and then it was
So reaching means like he's looking for something, is he still over there trying to find something, or is it just like just a little reach back?
from where we were, halfway in and out, both of us, it was, I got something for you.
Okay, but does he hold that position, or is it something just very quick?
I looked up to see him like this, and when I looked back, he was moving forward.
Okay, so
He was pushing his.
all right, I got you. So it wasn't like a whole like searching, reaching.
Yeah, no.
I got you. All right, so then he leans back, pushes the door forward. Do you ever see what's in his hand?
I couldn't see his hand from how I was pulled back and the angle that I'm sitting at, and I'm focusing on nothing, truthfully, so, you know what I mean, like, there was no assuming that there was, assuming that there wasn't.
You just enjoy it.
It was just me just trying to make sure that I was prepared for whatever it may have been.
I got you. So at that time, he opens the door, you close it back, right?
That's when I pushed up against it with my knee.
What made you do that? Why would try to like reach out the window. Like at this point, he's past the barrier from inside the vehicle to the outside.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And he got on his both hands or
He's just coming with his right hand.
So,
Because he turned side, like if this is the window, he's turned sideways as he has his hand up, it's almost like he has it on the armrest. He had his hand up against the door, that's when I pushed it, and I told him, you need to stay in the car.
okay.
And I had it in my hand.
Are you pointing at him at this time?
I'm not pointing it at him, but I'm not pointing it.
So where you pointing at? Where is he at point?
At rest with my hands, right here.
So you hand actually on the car?
No, I'm just saying like at the window.
Okay.
And I was actually further away because I had my knee on the door when I told him that. So I have my knee on the door, and I'm telling him, you need to stay in. I'm not reaching in, I'm not moving, I'm not
Do
touching.
you remember which knee that is?
Do you remember which side?
Which knee? The right,
My
left?
right knee.
So it's your right knee, so the same side as where you're close to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had it face this way, and I pushed the door forward.
All right. Tell me
Welcome,
how your
Scott.
hand is. You holding it sideways, holding the point? Like, how's your, where's your hand at? Where's your hand?
My hands are up here.
Oh, so you got a higher grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I pulled it out, and I had it up here.
Where's the muzzle point?
It's more so pointing sideways. Because I have it, so I have it in my hand like this.
All right, so it's not pointing at him, but it's kind of like
Right.
ready if he has to pull. All right. And then so you close the door back, tell him to stay in the car. At this point, he reaches out, correct? And he reaches out with his right hand. So you know there's nothing, no weapon or nothing in his right hand, correct?
Correct, well, yes.
Because you didn't see no weapon or nothing in his right hand.
I didn't see anything in it, but he didn't have anything.
Okay.
This hand is still down.
The left hand, which was the one he was not reaching with, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's the one, he just reached to, try to open the door. Okay. And then he grabbed your shirt
He grabbed my shirt.
with his right hand. Okay.
And that's when I'm trying to just pull away from him, and I actually it was making me nervous because of the fact that I had the gun in my hand and I wasn't holding it like I'm ready to shoot, so I didn't have the best grip on it. So because of it, I'm pulling away from him, and he's pulling the
So
shoe.
you using both hands now to try to push off the car, or like?
It's more so just my right hand because I'm trying to, do this with him.
Okay, so that's it.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to do this, just trying to push him off of me. And the gun is still facing that way. But
Okay.
that's when he lifts up and he grabs it,
Lifts up.
lifts up with his hand, his left hand.
So he lifts up with his left hand, grab you, lift up with his left hand, grab
Just as he pulls away with my shirt, like almost like he's trying to pull me closer towards him. But that's when the shirt rips altogether. When that happens, when he lifts up with his right hand.
Okay.
His left hand.
Okay.
And the gun is right at his door.
Okay.
And he grabs it
Okay. With his left hand.
with his left hand.
Okay. And at this time, is he still holding on to your shirt with the right hand, or?
No, his hand come off of my shirt.
All right.
So
You
now
said what?
his hand has come off of my shirt.
So now, left hand grabbing the gun, what is his right hand doing?
Left hand was grabbing the gun. Then he needed to pull his right hand around.
So now he got two hands on your
On
gun.
me, yes.
Okay. And at that point, how many hands do you have on your gun?
I pulled my hand under and I was trying to pull my actual hand away.
Okay.
I couldn't actually grab the gun itself.
Because your right hand and his hands are all
On it, right. Don't have my fingers on the trigger. I had it resting on the side of the trigger. That's when he's turning it, like he keeps turning, and it gets to almost like where my hand is on top of it. His hands are turning it, and we're that way, and it's kind of going back and forth over here, and when it was in this is when I.
At this point, is the gun more so inside of the truck or more so outside of the truck?
It's more so, we were right at the window.
Right.
But when he's turning it, it's outside.
Okay, so it's more so outside of the truck. That is how your gun and your hands are more out of the truck.
Because, it's like a back and forth thing. Like he's pulling, I'm pulling. So the only thing that was keeping
So
me
the
from.
tug of war, you was primarily winning because of the fact that your hands are outside of the truck?
It kind of was going back and forth.
Okay.
The only reason that I was able to pull
never more so in the car, out the car when we had the gun. It was more so like right there. And he's pulling, so my arm is now technically inside the vehicle.
Okay.
And he's pulling and pulling, and it got to where the gun was pointed kind of that way. And he had a hold of the trigger, and the trigger was pulled.
Okay.
It didn't go off.
So your hand wasn't on the safety.
Right.
Right.
So that's when I'm lifting up and I'm trying to pull over.
Okay.
When I'm lifting up and I'm trying to think that I can just get above him because I have air.
Yeah, he's lower. Yeah.
Thinking I could just get above him and it wasn't working. So then we're back here, both hands, and I'm yelling at him, telling him, I said, just let go, just let go, let go. And he's yelling, no, just shoot me, shoot me. You said you're going to, just shoot me. I'm like, just let go, just let go. That's when his hand and my fingers were,
In the trigger guard.
they were at the trigger guard.
Okay.
And that's when my hand was underneath, so I'm still pulling, and he let go with his right hand. His right hand, which is when he was reaching. And when he was reaching is when my hand went in the trigger guard, yes. And that's when he grabbed kind of like this side. It was somewhere right here.
So it's right hand. Left hand still on the gun.
I can't tell you, yeah.
And then, okay. And he grabs you. And then.
Well, he tried to grab me, but when I pulled away is when, because he's more forward now than he was before, and more turned. I mean, he's almost fully turned, by pulling. And I think that was more so just a matter of us kind of going back and forth with him like this. And he's pulling, after he tried to pull the trigger, when it came back around, is when I had my hand on the trigger. And he still was squeezing, reaching, pulling, turning.
With his left hand.
Which is when the lunge happened, like the
The extra.
and that's when it went off.
How many shots were fired?
Just
Before. How many, did your gun hold?
it holds, the magazine is in, I want to say 15 or 16.
Was it full?
No, it wasn't.
Do you know how many was in there?
11 or 12. My boyfriend noticed it for me after he bought me new bullets, so
How did you get the gun?
like originally purchased it, you mean?
Yeah, like was it gifted or did you go buy
I
it?
went and got it.
Where did you buy it from?
Gun safe and armory,
Okay.
Forest Park, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, how long you had that gun?
Not long enough. Maybe a couple weeks.
A couple of weeks. Did you take any training classes with the gun or did it just jump at you?
It wasn't, I didn't take any scheduled training. Professional, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've been to the range, I grew up shooting range. I grew up around police officers, actually, so.
I got you. Why, you brought up about the 911 call, why did you stop?
When I stopped originally,
Yeah.
because I could,
Why did you check, like, why didn't you stop?
I'm not a just, oh, it wasn't me type of person. I'm,
What you explain?
I mean, not that it has anything to do with it, but my entire life until I was 18 and my grandfather passed away, I was going to be a police officer. And I'm a people person. I like to help people. And considering the fact that I was almost involved, it threw me. So I called the police and when I was on the phone with her, I told her, I'm sure they've already called, but I'm just letting you know, she goes, well, we haven't actually received any calls yet. So I thought it was weird. So that's why I pulled up, I got out, I walked over and was talking to them. And after he was getting out of his truck, the truck driver had come back, the other police officer was also there. And that's when he had come back, or he was getting out of his truck and he was stumbling and falling into traffic.
The guy?
Yeah.
So he had appeared inebriated to you?
Yes.
Have you
you been around drunk people before, or people using other drugs with a prescription or not? What did you think?
I thought it was alcohol.
Okay, did you ever smell any alcohol in it?
I never got close enough.
Even when you're at the window, like when you're having this, did you ever schedule this with anything, or?
I can't say that I did, can't say that I didn't.
Okay.
Is that something that you would know, that you noticed, that you
No, nothing that I didn't know.
Did you smell anything that you noticed?
No,
No?
no, nothing. But then the outside.
Okay, yeah, no, I was like, no alcohol, no fruity smells, or nothing like that.
No. But when I was sitting there talking to the guy, I thought it was weird that he kept going back to his vehicle. So that's why, and he turned it on and started running it while we were all standing in front of it.
Okay.
So that's when I walked back across the street and I was calling my parents to tell them what happened. And I told them, let me call you right back. It's been almost 20 minutes and this guy's making me nervous. So I called dispatch. That was when I called the police officer. The police and the dispatch answered. And that's when I was on the phone with her when he took off.
And did the dispatcher ever tell you not to follow them?
She said, I told her, I said, I'm following him.
Did not.
And she said, yeah, no, so she's like, we asked that you don't put yourself at risk.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, I'm just trying to get a tag number so you can have it. By the time I got a tag number, we were at the end to Rebuttal Road, and I come around that corner. And right before he came around the corner, I came around the corner, and I got in front of him, and I stopped him.
Did you ever get the tag number?
Right when I got to the end, yeah.
She just said she stopped him.
So did you get the tag number before you kind of cut them off?
Yes.
What made you cut them off still after getting the tag number?
I saw the police lights, and the police lights was more so than after.
So.
Again, I've been involved in a hit and run, and if the world was perfect, I could know that was his car, that tag number would go to the right person, but it wasn't just like he was just in the accident and then he just wanted to leave. He was just in the accident and he was all over the place. And that's when that's what I told the dispatch. I said, he's all over the place. I said, there's no way. I said, please just get an officer here. I said, and then, I'll stop, but I said, he's going to hurt someone.
Right.
Which is when I got in front of him. And assuming that was going to stop him.
She determined he was going to hurt somebody if she didn't stop him.
Moving ahead.
This girl is a liar, okay? That's right. Good catch, Bogart. Look at the looks of disgust on the family's face back there. They're like, you little her lawyer, look how tense her lawyer, Polly Walnuts, is not happy. I noticed that the prosecutor yesterday was smiling a lot. She must have known what was on this.
Yeah, I see you we'll get a photographer to do it, too. We can get pictures of each.
I mean, there's a little more here, but I'm not saying actually bruises. I'm just saying, like,
Wherever you used to pay
I have a scratch here.
Okay.
I mean, I felt more scratches around here. I don't. Yeah, but with my hair was more, when I first, because I had it, not that there's that much of a difference, but it was like that.
Okay.
So we're going back and forth.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't see that, Trauma Punks.
Detective Hayward, would you agree, based on your investigation in this case, that this interview basically took place within a couple of hours of the shooting?
Correct.
And at the time that you conducted the interview with the defendant, had you listened to the 911 calls?
No.
Had you interviewed, formally interviewed any of the other eyewitnesses?
No.
Had you watched the body cameras of any of the uniform responding officers?
No.
So when you hear the defendant in the interview saying that she was telling Mr. Herring to stay in the car, did you hear her say that?
Yes.
Were you aware that on the 911 calls, she's saying the opposite, get out of the car?
Not at that time. No.
And do you, for the record, on the interview, do you hear that the defendant admits that she caused Mr. Herring to stop, that she stopped him?
Correct.
And even though she goes back and forth repeatedly, do you hear the defendant several times in your interview with her acknowledge that she put her finger on the trigger?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. We all heard that. Bye, Bogart.
Based
Have a
on
good
your
night.
evidence in this case, after the interview, obviously, did you watch all the interviews and conduct the interviews and watch the media that I just talked about?
Yes.
Did you receive any evidence in this case that Mr. Herring ever got out of his vehicle in any way?
No.
And did you hear the defendant acknowledge that Mr. Herring had nothing in his hands?
Yes.
Did you ever hear her, or did she ever tell you at any time about any specific weapon she was concerned about?
No.
Did the defendant ever mention being concerned about a sheetrock knife located back in the trash or behind Mr. Herring's seat? Did she ever mention a knife to you at all?
No.
Thank you, each and everything.
Let's talk a little bit about one second. In order to be a police officer, do you receive any training as it relates to firearms in general?
Yes, ma'am. Initially in basic law enforcement training and then ongoing continuous training throughout the year of your career.
And have you maintained, you said you're still working in security?
Correct.
Are you still around weapons,
Yes,
things like that?
I am.
And I want to go back to one thing before I forget to do it. Do you hear, you asked the defendant specifically if she'd taken any gun safety classes, and she told you no?
Correct. Professionally, yes.
You and the defendant kind of start discussing the double safety. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct with what's already been admitted as State's Exhibit number 15. I'm going to ask the witness if he can step down to show the feature of this weapon, please.
Yes.
You would make sure, since your back is going to be to the court reporter, if you keep your voice up.
Okay.
And again, for the record, there is a zip tie. There is no ammunition. The gun is safe.
Is this the real weapon?
If you could show the jury on State's Exhibit number 15 what that second safety is and where it is on the firearm.
It's going to be on the back side of the handle, where my finger is pointing, and you have to grasp the handle firmly to push that trigger in.
And there's also the double trigger. So there's a safety feature on the trigger. So in order for this gun to fire, what all has to be happening at the same time?
Both the trigger on the back of the handle and also the trigger within the trigger guard have to be pulled.
So someone's hand has to be firmly on both.
Correct.
would. And you heard on the interview
Yeah, double safety.
that the defendant claims that the moment she was able to pull the gun, that she wrapped the slide.
Yes.
In your experience with firearms, how many hands does it take to wrap a slide?
2.
Two. Even I
So
know
when
that.
she has the gun out, who's wrapping the slide, she has both hands.
Correct.
I mean, the defense knows that they're toast at this point. They have to know.
Were you eventually able to obtain a video of this incident?
Yes.
And that was from Cameron Williams, is that correct?
Can't recall the name, but it was from a witness.
So
there's video.
Approach with what's already been admitted as state's exhibit number 22.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. I'm just gonna let you look at that and I'm gonna display it. Using state's exhibit number 22. The position that you see the defendant's hand in, with her hand all the way on the back of the grip and the finger in the trigger guard, is that the position that the hand would have to be in order to pull the trigger on that gun for it to work?
Correct.
Oh, wow. Look at that. I mean, it's hard to see, but what you missed each and everything. No, not in the last 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chief Assistant. Any cross-exam?
Yes, ma'am.
Attorney Tucker.
Okay, Mr. Cross-examination. Yes, her car was the Jeep. Nice
How
Jeep.
you doing today? Sharp as always.
I appreciate it. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Now, you were saying that the interview you had with Miss Payne, that was a couple of hours after the incident, correct?
Correct.
And there had been a couple of interviews with her with other officers, correct?
Not to my knowledge. Maybe the initial interview with the uniform officer, but typically it's not something that more in detailed interview on the roadside is not something that's typical.
So it wasn't typical for them to do an interview like that, or?
To my knowledge, it's not I do not recall them having a detailed interview on the side of the road with her.
Okay, but when you did your investigation, you saw when the officer put her in the back of the car, walked up with the pad, started asking her what happened, correct?
No.
So you never went back and witnessed that video that your officer had where he was interviewing?
Yeah. So it's been a while. And according to my recollection, Hannah Payne was not in the back of a car. She was out. She was standing with an officer. And then and that's when we was informed that officer to go ahead and detain her to transport her to our headquarters for an interview.
So according to your recollection, they got her, they detained her, put her in a car straight to the precinct.
Correct.
Okay.
That's a minor
and she sat in
detail.
the precinct for a long time, correct?
Yes, she was there for a while.
Okay. And her phone was taken away from her, correct?
Correct.
Was she ever asking to speak to her parents or call her parents and let them know that she's okay?
At one point she did ask.
Okay. And did you allow her to call her parents to say, hey, I'm okay? The last time they talked, it's kind of crazy.
At that point, I informed her that her parents was already there.
Parents were at the precinct.
Correct.
Okay.
Can we approach, please? Yes, you may.
so interesting. I don't, you know, I think what the lawyer was trying to point out was that there were a lot of different conversations that happened with her on that day. But I don't think, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think that really helps though, because every time she opens her mouth, she seems to change the story. Yeah, she called her parents instead of an attorney because, I continue to maintain, and it keeps being borne out through all of this trial. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. Uh, she thinks he was in the wrong in what he did, and that she was pursuing justice. And I think she still doesn't think she did anything wrong. That she was trying to do a good thing, and things went wrong. But you know, that's the tough part, is that you have to know when to stop, when your role in doing a good thing needs to stop, and when you're in over your head, and um when you're about to cross boundaries of doing that good thing. And when you chase a car down, yeah, there's a lot of entitlement. And when you chase somebody down, you've been told not to follow, you've been told not to chain, follow, not to chase somebody down, and you still do it. And then you approach that car, you actually stop the car. She says she didn't stop the car on the stand, but she did, in the interrogation, she says, I stopped him. So she stops him, and then she gets out of her car and approaches him, and she has a gun. There are many, many, many things that she did that were not in the pursuit of doing good. She had determined that he was about to do more harm, that he was going to cause another accident, that it was up to her. It was her job to stop him.
So we're back where she'd asked to use the phone to talk to her parents, correct? To basically just say she was safe. And
Correct.
okay. And then it was roughly, I counted about an hour, 22 minutes before that she sat in the room, just sitting there, kind of putting her head down. I don't think we got to see the whole thing, but it was just, just her in a room by herself, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, you and Detective Moore came in there and started asking questions. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. And in these questions, how long have you been a detective there at Clayton County?
For 3 years.
Okay. And did you have any other training as a detective before that?
Just basic law enforcement uniform.
Okay. And basically, as a detective, they teach you different strategies and techniques on how to interview people.
Correct.
And it's different than they would a law enforcement that's on the street, correct?
Not necessarily, no, sir.
Did you take any different classes to assist you in the ability to interview?
No, I did not take an additional interview and interrogation courses.
Okay. And have you ever had an occasion where you're dealing with somebody and say they cut you off or won't listen to you or try to end your sentences?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And how did that make you feel? Frustrated?
It can be frustrating.
So, and in this interview, a lot of times you're asking Miss Payne some questions, and it appears you do not let her finish her sentence, or you're trying to finish it forward. Did you see that in the interview?
No, sir. What I did recognize is that I allowed Detective Moore to ask all the questions initially, and I was just asking follow-up questions to get more detailed information.
All right. Do you recall asking her So did the door open or did you see the door open? She says, I didn't see the door open, but your next question said, now that the door is opening. Do you recall seeing that on the video or do you recall saying that?
No, sir.
Okay. Why were you harping on the door?
And I was just interested in regards to like the positioning of the incident, whether it took place inside of the vehicle or whether it took place outside, because but just with the initial conversation with the uniform officers, it was supposedly that there was a physical altercation with Miss Payne inside of the vehicle striking Mr. Herring.
So you did talk to some of the officers that were on the scene, correct?
Yes, to gain initial information.
And none of them said that the officer took her in the back of the car and interviewed her?
No.
Okay.
It's like a desperation move trauma.
As I was writing it down, it appeared she was telling about he was reaching for something to open the door or trying to open the door. She couldn't really tell, but she heard kind of grabbing at the panel on the inside. She didn't say panel, but at the door.
Correct.
Did you try to open the door when you got on the scene?
I can't recall if I tried to open the door, but I doubt it.
Okay. Did you hear that anybody could get the door open?
I can't recall, honestly speaking.
Do you recall Officer Ritchie
Okay.
saying that he had to go around to get into the vehicle because the door on the driver's side would not open?
Okay. I don't recall that. No.
Okay.
So he's trying to say the door wouldn't open. It was impossible for it to open.
Recall anybody else mentioning the door, or how about this? Do you recall how much damage was on the truck?
Oh, the vehicle had extensive damage. Yes.
Okay. And could that damage cause that door to have not opened?
There's a possibility. Yes. Yes, sir.
And so there's a possibility because the damage occurred prior to the encounter with Miss Payne, correct?
Right, with the accident.
So it's a possibility that door could not open.
Correct.
And you stated there, she started talking to you initially and stated that basically she was on the phone with the police or 911, and she'd been told by an officer to go get the tag. Do you recall hearing that in your interview?
Repeat that?
Do you recall hearing in your interview that her saying that she was on the phone with 911?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall hearing that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall hearing her saying that there was an officer at the scene of the first accident?
Oh, yeah, off-duty officer, yes.
Okay. But she called him an officer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall her saying the officer kind of was like, go get the tag?
Yes.
Okay. So from her side, she was telling you that's what was occurring when she went to get the tag, correct?
Okay, yes.
Okay. And then you asked the question, why didn't you stop? She said, well, the person on the phone was kind of like, be safe. So do you remember her saying that she didn't recall them saying, don't chase, but you need to be safe?
No.
Okay. So you don't remember her saying that the individual on the phone from 911 said that she needed to be safe?
I recalled she said that she was on the phone with 911, and I don't recall the fact that the person said, just be safe. No.
You need to be safe. We want to make sure you're safe. Something along that
line.
lines.
Right.
Okay. I know it's been a while.
Yes.
But we just heard it, and I know you got other things going on. So let's see. Do you recall her stating that she just was walking up to the door, had the phone to show that she had 911 on the call, to talk to the gentleman to tell him to go back to the accident, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it sounds like she's just walking up with the phone trying to say, hey, you need to go back to the accident. She's not walking up there to get aggressive. She's walked up there to tell him to go back to the accident, correct?
That's not what she said to me. in regards to like just that she was just telling me to go back to the accident in the interview. That's not what I recall from the interview, though.
Okay, at the beginning of the interview,
Mhm.
she did the quick explanation of what's going on.
Right.
You don't recall her saying that I was on the phone with 911 and I walked up the phone to show that I was on the phone with the police or 911
Mhm.
and was telling him he needed to go back to the accident.
Not to hope you go back to the accident. No, I don't recall that part of the interview.
Okay. But you do recall hearing her say that as they were struggling and going back and forth for the gun, that she heard him pull the trigger and it clicked. And that's when they started talking about the safety mechanisms on the gun, correct?
I'm sorry.
She was testifying or telling you in this interview.
Okay.
She was talking about the position of her hands.
Yes.
A lot of times she would say trigger guard. A lot of times she'd say trigger. A lot of times she'd say hand. Do you recall hearing that?
Those terms, yes.
Okay. And a couple of times she said trigger, but she came back and corrected herself to say trigger guard. Do you
Correct.
recall? Okay. And do you recall her saying that as they're pulling for this, that his hand got into the trigger and pulled it and it clicked?
No,
You don't recall that?
I heard the trigger guard.
Okay. You didn't hear on that video where it just said, I heard the gun click. He had his finger in the trigger guard.
No.
Okay, hold on. I would hate to have to play it all back here, but I believe it was in between. She said 9. I got 11 and 9. Oh, oh, it's, okay. I can use that.
But what is he suggesting again? Once again, that he had his hand on the trigger and pushed the trigger? Because from his angle, he would have to have pushed the trigger.
All right. Oh.
And you do need two
Now,
hands to rack it.
as I'm looking for this, I'll keep trying to move forward. Now, you recall her saying that she saw that the car was stopped, so she pulled in front of the car or the truck.
No, sir.
No, she said she stopped it. She said, I stopped him.
Do you recall her saying, I honestly don't know if the door opened or not, but I could hear him grabbing at the door handle. Do you recall hearing that?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall her saying, not once, but a couple of times, that she had no intention of ever trying to use her gun?
I don't recall her saying that directly, but she did try to speak towards that. Yes.
Thanks, Shaft.
Yes. So I'm going to, if I may approach, Your Honor.
Yes, you may.
I'm going to refresh your memory. These are the transcripts of the interview that we just heard.
What exhibit is that?
It states Exhibit 41. I don't believe they tendered it. They just used it for refreshing.
Okay.
And I'll just do the same. Do you see in there where it says she had no intention of using it? it being the gun?
She has said that a few times, but why did she rack it?
Yes, I see that.
All right. Does that refresh your memory a little bit better? On that person?
Yes, you may. And what page are you referencing?
Number 9.
I mean, that's a very deliberate action. It takes two
Refresh your memory.
hands.
So you do recall her saying she had no intention of using the gun, correct?
Yes, but she was prepared.
Okay. And in that page 2, it kept saying
Exactly. Queen.
that he kept pulling and pulling. And do you recall Detective Moore on that same page asking, so you pulled around and you stopped in front of him? What happens? So it wasn't like she blocked him in, she stopped in front of him, correct? Do you recall hearing that in there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And a lot of times she kept saying that when she got up there, that the victim, the deceased there was asking, who are you? You're nobody. Do you recall hearing that from the testimony?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay, and she kept saying that he was telling her he had something for you and leaning back, correct?
Yes, that's what Ms. Payne said.
Okay. Now, did you get a chance to look at the contents of that truck?
Yes.
Okay. And was there any kind of items within that truck that could have been used to cause bodily harm to Ms. Payne?
Again, this has been a while. To my record, I would have to probably see like the evidence list, but yes, it was like syringes in there. I do believe like there was a sharp tool that we did submit to evidence just because she stated that that she did see him reaching for something. So I don't think a lot of documents. There was a lot of things in that truck.
Okay, so as a detective and hearing what she had said in her interview, wouldn't you go back to his vehicle and look around to see if items that could have caused bodily harm and take them in as evidence?
Yes, I believe that was done.
So the knife was taken in as evidence.
Yes, I believe that was done.
Okay, and
Yeah, they showed us a picture of it yesterday.
And I have defense exhibit 23, 24, 26, 30, and 30. And I think it goes up to 36, correct? I'm going to stick it together. 26, 30, and 36. I plan to show that. So you can look at those photos right there. Is that, to your knowledge, and I know it's been a while, is that a fair and accurate representation of what you saw in the vehicle?
Correct.
Okay. And as you look at those, do you see anything of interest that would probably be collected or used to investigate to find out what really was going on?
It sounds like the truck was fairly messy, so she couldn't have seen it. the bottom line is she was the aggressor in this situation.
If something had to be of concern, it would be Exhibit 23, the cutting tool.
Okay. And nothing else in those pictures are of any interest to try to explain what was going on or somebody's behavior?
The syringe caps? Is that what you? No, sir.
There's nothing else in those pictures that were any interest or any value?
No, sir.
This is the third time he's asked this question.
Yeah, asked
But
and
this has
answered.
I would ask that the council move on.
I asked one time, he talked about a saw. I asked again, he just answered with the caps, and that's it. I haven't asked a third.
Okay,
So-
so I am going to sustain the objection. He has answered with what he thought. Like,
This lawyer is such a baby when he doesn't get his
And
way.
then he also answered that they were caps to a syringe, and then he said that was it. And I haven't asked another question since then. I
Okay,
just,
so he has answered.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
all right, you're right.
This guy's he's like a little temperamental baby when he doesn't get his way.
Show the juror what he was identifying.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's super close up. Look at that. I don't think he wanted to be that close up.
And this was the picture that you stated that there was a saw in, correct?
Correct, cutting tool.
Okay, cutting tool.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of
And
stuff in there. There's
you
nothing
reviewed all of these
exactly.
pictures, correct?
Correct.
She couldn't have seen anything in there.
And upon reviewing all of these, it was your testimony that there wasn't anything besides the cutting tool and possibly the caps that were of any value.
Correct.
In terms of what could hurt her, yeah.
Now,
Yeah, his closing ought to be interesting.
there was a picture shown.
When he got up to start questioning
There was
this
a picture
witness,
shown
he's like,
to you.
"You're looking sharp as always." He's a character, man.
That now hearing the interview and hearing how they were pulling and tussling and a shirt being ripped, the way that arm is pulled out, the way it is depicted in that picture, would that be possibly because the hand was being held and it finally got loose?
That requests this witness to speculate. Their response.
He is a detective, an investigator. He investigated this scene. He heard the testimony. I think he can give his opinion of the position of that picture. And from what all he learned in this investigation, he should be able to explain a theory or what he felt was depicted.
So I'm going to sustain the objection. It does call for speculation.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when Detective Moore was talking with Hannah Payne, a couple of times, she said she had put her finger and then she stopped. She said, "I put my hand
She didn't stop. She just said,
on, I don't know what it's called, the trigger." And Detective Moore said the trigger guard, correct? The circular thing. And she said, yes. Do you recall that?
No.
You don't confide me?
I don't either.
Page 24.
The trigger was mentioned so many times, and and at one point she stopped herself short of saying, she said, and that's when and then she stopped herself.
Correct.
Okay. So a lot of times, as she's nervous in this interview, when she's stating certain things, a lot of times it needs to be corrected or clarified, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you could tell she was scared, kind of nervous.
Correct.
And that whole time she was sitting there in the room waiting to be interviewed. Did anybody offer up her any water or bathroom or anything?
Yes, I believe Detective Milanis did when he initially sat her in the interview room.
Okay.
I don't know, Evil Queen.
And you kept asking and trying to get clarity that how the positioning or the handling was
Exactly,
on the gun,
Bogart.
correct?
Correct. Just how what everybody's hands were doing.
Okay. And if I may,
Good luck with your doctor's appointment.
I'll use this just to evidence. That's okay. Once again, this is just an exhibit. It's not a real gun. Toy plastic gun. It has nothing, though it has the abilities, has nothing in it. Okay, if I may approach her.
You may.
All right, according to what you heard Ms. Payne saying in the position of what everything was going on, could you show me the way she said she had the gun in her hand?
Get out of the way, sir.
The way she said she had the gun in her hand?
Okay. And she said that the individual in the vehicle had grabbed her wrist. Is it fair to say with his left hand grabbed her wrist?
Yep. Grab the gun with the left hand?
Or gun or wrist?
Wrist.
Is
Okay.
that fair to say?
Yes.
So if he's got it like this, and he's got her shirt here, did she say at one time he let go and came to grab the gun with both her hands?
Yes.
Okay, and as they grab, what is right there at the trigger of the trigger? In the description, and
And I'm
you're
back. I'm back.
clarifying it and asking and going into details of what really happened. And as I initially asked,
That was the first time I think
About
we saw the court
her
reporter.
stating that as he was pulling on the gun and going back and forth, that the trigger was pulled. Do you recall her saying that?
Yes.
Okay. And it was not pulled by her. Do you recall her saying that he had the gun, a better grip on the gun because she didn't have a good grip on the gun?
No.
Okay. I'll refresh your memory. All right. But you do recall her saying that he had a hold of the trigger and the trigger was pulled. Do you recall that?
In the interview?
Yes.
No, sir.
No.
I'm going to refresh your memory. It's on page 47.
It feels like the defense attorney is trying to confuse, like throw in a bunch of confusion, but none of this confusion takes away that she was the aggressor who pulled out a gun in a situation where it shouldn't have been pulled out at all. That's, it just seems like a lot of confusery to me. Like whose finger was on the trigger, who had whose hands where, was there a door open or not? This is all just, throwing mud in the water to make things less clear and lose focus.
Yes, she expressed that he had hold of the trigger and the trigger was pulled.
Okay. And
How could he pull
earlier
the
I
trigger from
asked
his angle?
also that, do you recall her saying that there was a click, like the trigger being pulled?
No, I don't recall a click.
If I may approach. I can refresh the memory here. And I know it's been a while, so I'll be able to. We have it. 23.
I'm assuming that the prosecution is going to redirect with all kinds of contradicting statements
Yes.
that the
Okay, so
defendant
it
also
was
said.
stated in an interview that she said the trigger was pulled and that she heard a click.
She stated that when it first had turned, I heard it click, like the trigger was pulled.
Okay. So, and then at that point, she's saying that the gun is being tried to be pointed back at her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in a scenario like that, with your experience and knowledge, and training, if somebody's pointing a gun back at somebody and pulls a trigger and you hear it click, would that not be aggravated assault or possibly attempted murder?
Your objection. Obviously, this witness can't speculate to that. It calls for a legal conclusion and is inconsistent with the evidence that's been presented, and we would ask this question.
Your Honor, I'm talking to him about his interview he had with Ms. Payne. I'm asking from his experiences, training, and being a detective, that if a situation as described in this interview and somebody's pointing a gun and it clicks, what charge could be put on the individual? And I think he's well within the scope of his employment, well within the scope of his knowledge to answer.
Yeah, but that's not what's on the table.
Your response. And Judge, I think it's assuming it's not a question based on the facts, because the facts are that the defendant had the gun. So asking what happens when someone else is using her gun against her, it's her, the gun is in her hand. So I think it's asking a speculation that Mr. Herring would have ever been charged with anything in this case. So I think it's an inappropriate question and it's misleading to the jury.
And
Yes.
I'm asking from his interview that he had with Ms. Payne, where he could ask any question he wants. He heard all of this information. I'm asking from this interview what he did. He conducted. If that occurred, what in his training and knowledge and experience he believes that that could be charged or that would have been classified as.
So the question, as you posted, does call for a legal conclusion.
Yep.
And so I am going to sustain the objection.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, but I'd agree with that.
Now, you stated that
That's right, Evil Queen. Wouldn't he have to push
as
it?
you sat there and discussed with Miss Payne, and after this interview, you had heard her parents were outside, correct? After the interview, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point, you saw me coming into the precinct, explaining I was her attorney and that I would like to speak with her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you left the room and you allowed us time to speak, correct?
Correct.
Okay. At any point, did anybody listen to what we were saying in that room? I know there was a lot of officers, a lot of detectives around there.
There's an objection.
And we need to approach this one.
This is interesting. So basically what he's pointing out is that there's a bunch of inconsistencies in what was said. There's inconsistencies. Well, that's right. I don't know if he's a public defender. I tried to look that up before. I think maybe he is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know for sure. Honestly, I don't know for sure. And I don't want to speculate on that. He, I think in general, he's a good attorney. I mean, he's passionate. He's fighting for his client. He's very resourceful. He's but he comes across sketchy, you know what I mean? Kind of like smarmy and sketchy and not super credible. Exactly. I mean, the thing that I can't get past is that we're hashing through all these really minute details of where the hand was on the gun and things like that. This woman chased him down after being told not to. After being told not to by the 911 operator. Do not pursue it. And she was specifically told, just get the tags, right? And she told them, I'm just going to get the tags. She gets the tags. She tells the 911 operator the tags, but she says she's going to continue to stay with him and follow him until the police arrive because she decides, yes, trauma, Fulton County. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure if it's Fulton. I believe it's Fulton County. I'm getting that case mixed up with the Young Thug case because that's in Fulton County. But anyway, it could be.
All right.
It's definitely Georgia.
We won't go any further on this, Shauna. Did you ever tell Miss Payne during that whole period of time? Let me rephrase. When did you find out that the individual shot had become deceased?
Maybe prior to the interview, because I think that's where Detective Moore responded when I responded to the incident location.
Okay. And did you ever tell Miss Payne that the individual had passed away?
No, not to my recollection.
And she never
Right.
asked.
And did you see and recall in your interview when you and Detective Moore are talking to Miss Payne, a lot of times you interrupted her or didn't let her finish her sentence?
No.
There were moments that I did ask questions, direct questions, and she was giving me additional information. I was just trying to make sure I gained clarity.
But when you were asking the question, was she still talking at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And generally, when two people are talking at the same time, it's not fair to say that they heard the whole question or heard the whole conversation.
Correct.
Okay. So, and it was you and Detective Moore asking questions simultaneously, or sometimes she'd start it and you'd catch on and come behind it. But there were questions coming rather quickly, correct?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
Okay. You don't recall just seeing in that interview where you're talking about the door, just specifically the door, and Detective Moore asked a question and you ask a question and she's trying to explain it. You don't recall seeing that just a few minutes ago?
The concern was the quickly, as if it was like rapid fire questioning. But we were asking questions in the interview, allowing Ms. Payne a chance to respond. Also, I was asking follow-up questions and giving everybody an opportunity to ask and to respond.
Okay. Now, you did ask that when she pulled in front of Mr. Herring, that you asked, was it like his foot came off the gas or came off the brake and that's why the car moved forward? And she stated that no, it revved up before it took off. Do you recall hearing that?
I do recall her speaking that the vehicle revved.
Okay. And do you recall seeing where the vehicle had made contact with the Jeep?
Yes.
And you did hear her state that it was moving with her, but it stopped when it got to the Jeep?
Yes.
Okay. And you heard her at one point say that she didn't have a good grip on the gun, that he may have had a better grip on the gun.
I do recall her stating that she did not have a good grip.
Okay. And now you stated that there's only one way to load a chamber when it's been holstered, a gun. Do you recall saying that?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen those holsters now that you just pull it down a pop and it's loaded it?
I'm not familiar with that holster, no.
Okay. You ever seen those? I've seen them on TV, the commercials that are promoting that it's kind of a pow loaded and go. You haven't seen those commercials or seen a holster that has that?
No, sir.
Okay. But you did hear that this particular gun had kind of a two safety mechanism, correct?
Correct.
And that would be based for safety, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I heard that you said when you were asked, she didn't have any training, gun training, and you said professional. You meant professional training or professional gun training, or what did you mean when you said that?
Yeah, she expressed that like during the interview, it was like when I said professional, like actually like attending a gunfire safety course. That's what I was asking in regards to like professionally.
All right. So would that be a state certified, or would it be something you would pay that makes it professional, or
Both.
Okay. And so when you go to these gun ranges and they sit you down and you watch a video and then they tell you a little bit about the gun, that would not be considered gun safety class?
Probably gun safety class for that particular location for the firing range.
But they talk about the safety of the gun, how to hold it.
Yes.
Okay. And throughout this interview, you did hear her say that she had some scratches and some marks on her person.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And were they consistent to the story that she was telling you about what happened?
Yes, in regards to a grabbing of the shirt.
And of the wrist?
In the wrist, yes.
Okay. And pictures were not taken until after the interview, after it was brought to their attention that she had some marks. Do you recall when Detective Moore decided to take pictures?
Yes.
When did she decide to take pictures?
I think we requested the photographer after our interview.
Okay. And you asked a specific question of, why would you go after this car? Why would you follow this car to get a tag? And she said that she's a people person and she was just trying to help out. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Is that a bad thing?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, when she was stating that he had something for her, that she was nobody and was leaning back, did that kind of spark your curiosity of what could have been happening inside that truck?
Yes.
Okay. And upon looking at the pictures and everything else, there wasn't really anything that stuck out to you besides that saw. Did you ever see the knife that was in the truck?
No, sir.
Somebody approach her.
Yes.
Yeah, I showed that Bogart. Here, I'll show you the headline again. Yeah. I've been also checking to see if he's a public defender. I'm been having a hard time getting access to the court docket. Sometimes these court dockets are difficult to The court web systems are terrible. They're just awful.
I'm trying to find the exhibit that I think of the night, and maybe it's in her.
That's a complete stack
Right.
of all the exhibits.
She was nice enough to put our defense and then that helped out.
Oh, this is interesting. I'm reading the New York Post article about his stroke and his contempt of court. It says Malone, the judge, expressed doubts that Tucker actually suffered a medical emergency, citing an alleged history of absences. This guy's a character. This is not the first time I've had an issue with him failing to come on time, the judge said.
All right, so if I can bring to your attention defense exhibit number 25. You stated that looking through the truck, the content, that you never saw that die.
Yes.
Yes, you did see it, or yes, you didn't see it.
In regards, yes, I did not see this in the photos that you presented, but yes, I think that's the cutting tool that we submitted to evidence.
And did they ever get tested for any fingerprints or DNA?
Not to my recollection, I'm not sure.
And did the trigger of the gun ever get submitted for DNA or fingerprinting?
I'm not sure if that did happen for DNA.
Based on the testimony of whose finger was on the trigger or not, did you feel that was necessary to ask to have them do a DNA analysis or fingerprint analysis?
Not necessarily.
So it wasn't any concern of yours to find out whose finger or whose DNA?
At that particular time, I'm not sure if that's what was requested during the investigation, but and if it was not requested, because I didn't think it was also a determining factor.
And I'm not trying to put you on the hook for somebody else. Did you request a fingerprint or DNA?
To my I cannot recall specifically, no.
The gun shouldn't have been presented in the first place.
Now, numerous times in her interview, she kept relaying that she was telling him to stop, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And she stated that that basically, you know, they both were kind of scuffling back and forth. He was hitting her, she was trying to hit him. Do you recall if there were any visible bruises or any kind of cuts on Mr. Herring's face, body, arms?
No, sir. I not to my recollection, I don't even think I even viewed Mr. Herring because he was already at the hospital.
Okay. Did you ever get a chance to review the pictures of Mr. Herring?
No, sir, not to my recollection.
Did you ever get to review the autopsy?
No, sir.
Now, as you were standing at the site, I noticed at one point you look up and you look at the camera. Do you recall that? Like, you know, the roads have cameras all up and down it.
No, sir, I don't recall looking at a camera.
Okay. Do you recall if there were any cameras around that area?
Maybe traffic cameras on the traffic lights, but they're not for recordings.
Okay, so, fence exhibit number 4. As you look at all those poles and everything around that roadside, does that appear to be cameras?
No, sir, not to me.
Okay. I may have a better picture for you here. All right,
So I made it onto the docket.
I hate to interrupt you at this time, but I am going to have to give it yours. And so it's,
I just have one more question. I was gonna sit down, but it's up to the court.
all right, go ahead and put
Okay.
one more question and then
All right.
I'm going to give them a break.
Is this a better picture where you can see an extension?
I'm looking at the docket.
That's coming out.
I agree.
And
I
From
agree.
your experience of being on the road and seeing, the cameras and the flock cameras they use on the road, is that fair to say that that appears to be a camera?
No, sir.
If I may. And extensions off these right here, those poles, here, here, and here. You're saying that those are not cameras, that you can't decide from that photo that those are cameras?
To me, they do not appear to be cameras.
And you're familiar with that road?
Yes, sir, Rebuttal Road.
That was, I think, Forest Parkway.
Okay.
And have you ever seen any cameras on that road before?
No, sir, not to any of my recollection.
No further questions?
Okay, thank you. At this time, I am going to give the backing brief. It is now 11:40. I just asked you to be back at 12, and we'll resume at that time.
Yes, Scott. In fact, I've been calling him Polly Walnuts. If anybody was a fan of The Sopranos, this is Polly Walnuts from The Sopranos. That's who he reminds me of. But the attorney needs the white wings on the side. Yeah. So, yeah. And other people have been, Trauma has been calling him Don Johnson. So I'll be keeping an eye on, and let me just keep this here and I'll keep it like this. So I've been looking on the docket, and man, it's a lengthy docket because the attorney went on a leave of absence. It's really hard to tell on the docket whether he's a public defender or a private attorney, and it's kind of hard to tell. There's really no way to, unless I'm missing something, unless I'm missing some sort of code for it. Yeah, tomorrow he's going to come in with the wings, Scott. So unless I'm missing some sort of code on the docket, I don't see where he's a public defender. It looks like he could be a private attorney, but at the same time, so there's a few ways to look at this. I mean, he seems like he's a little bit sketchy, and I was just reading this New York Times article. In the arraignment, it doesn't Yeah, it didn't say. Let me get to the arraignment on the docket. Where it says that he comes in, it doesn't. It says add attorney Tucker Matthew A for Payne Hannah, and it doesn't say. And then yeah, no. Oh, let's see. Arraignment. And then no, it doesn't say whether he's public or it doesn't say whether he's public or private. But right after he's added to the docket, then then he goes on an extended leave of absence. So it appears that he's had some medical issues. And then in this, here, I'll pull up this New York Times article. Hold on a second. This New York Times article. I'm sorry, not New York Times, the New Yorker article. Here he is in his hospital bed. It says I've scrolled down to where they're quoting the judge. This is not the first time I've had an issue with him failing to come on time, the judge said. He's doing you a disservice because you've been here. You have the right to counsel who is going to be diligently representing and advocating on you zealously, and he has not been doing that. I mean, he's definitely been zealously. Let me make this bigger here. He's definitely been zealously defending her here in this trial, right? But this was back in the days when they were going through all these motions and stuff. Let's see. Oh, this was a different and that was a different judge. Speaking to Channel 2's Tom Jones on Thursday, Tucker, who remains hospitalized, says he was astonished by Malone's statements in front of both his client and those watching the proceedings at home. I couldn't believe it, he said. She kind of made me look real bad on TV. Wow. Yeah, you mean this? Did you see that in the Young Thug trial, the Mr. Steele pointed the gun at one of the co-defendants and his lawyer, and it was a real gun, right out of evidence, and he pulled it right out, and he was kind of holding it there, and the judge had to say, "Hey, dude, look, watch how you're holding that gun." Jesus. That's one of the reasons I started this channel, is that I watch a lot of trials, and I've noticed that people don't really you would think that when your life is on the line, your destiny is going to be changed by the way you behave in this courtroom. You would bring your best game. He did. Well, he wasn't holding it like, he was about to shoot it, but he held it sideways. Hey, don't worry about it, sweetheart. So anyway, you would think that people would bring their best game, and I've noticed that people are not bringing their best game. Even sometimes the lawyers and the judges and some of the witnesses. It's just, and like, if you believe what the defense in the Murdaugh trial is saying, even the court clerk is doing some fuckery. So, and I'm also, along with a lot of most of the audience that follows me, is interested in human behavior, and watching, basically people watching and observing human behavior and observing patterns of behavior and how people, respond to things. And let me just see if the court's back in session yet. Nope, not back. Hold on. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. Hold on. So it's just, but there's another thing I noticed as I was looking up whether, this is an interesting article I was also seeing as I was kind of looking around. Let me pull it up here. And it's about whether race is an issue. I guess Mr. Tucker was asked about that. And it says, let's read. Lawyer for woman accused of gunning down hit and run driver says race wasn't an issue. Jury selection is underway. Hannah Payne, 25, faces, this is just the beginning. Payne's attorney, Matt Tucker, says race has no relevance. Let's see. Hold on. Oops. Race has no relevance. Race is not part of it, Tucker said. It just escalated to something that shouldn't have, and I believe that when the facts come out, everybody will understand. On Tuesday, potential jurors were still being questioned about the high-profile case. One panel of 15 said they hadn't heard of the case and could be impartial, blah, 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 blah. So that's just a very brief denial that there was anything, that race had anything to do with anything. So I noticed that you said something about the ACLU earlier, Trauma Punks. And I know you're not in the States, so you may not know this, but the ACLU has a reputation for being a little bit too trigger happy when it comes to race. They have, it's their job to be, it's their job to protect, they're the American Civil Liberties Union. They're kind of libertarian. They're they're here to protect all of our civil rights, and they do get involved in civil rights issues very strongly, but sometimes they tend to get involved in things that may not be race related when, because it's a way for them to continue getting their name out there and raising money, and they've gotten in trouble for that. Now, I'm not saying that they always do that, but they have a tendency to sometimes cry wolf, and they discredit themselves sometimes by doing that. And sometimes they get involved in things that they just shouldn't be involved in. So it doesn't always in the US, it doesn't always say, oh, this is legitimately a race issue because the ACLU is involved. The ACLU is going to look at practically everything that could potentially have a race. Yeah, that could potentially. And, if I were to look at this, this is taking place in the South, which historically has a lot of race issues. And could her decision making about whether this person is going to continue to continue to cause more accidents, could her decision making have been changed by the fact that he's African American? Very likely. In the South, it's very likely, just because of, we have to look at that because there is so much subconscious bias. But I don't think that or we can't know for sure whether she said, oh, there's a black guy, I got to chase him down. In the Ahmaud Arbery case, it was much, much more clear that there were a couple of guys who were like, there's a black guy, let's chase him down. We think we have a good reason to chase him down, and we're going to chase him down now. Whereas, they basically used an excuse to take like a KKK action. And in this case, there are no other signs or indications other than maybe she has like a subconscious bias, and yeah, you have every right to believe that. They're well, the motive, the other motive could be that she's just very dumb, and there's this thing about it's a the motive could be, I'm a Karen and I think that I get to take justice into my own hands. And that she could have done that even if she would have done that even no matter who it was, no matter whether it was a white person, an Asian person, a black person, an Indian person, male, female, gay, whatever, that if the same actions had taken place, she would have considered herself a vigilante who needed to take matters into her own hands. But then her decision to then pull out a gun because he was grabbing at her may have been impacted by her biases against his race. It's very possible, but there's probably no way to prove it. Yeah, there should be a Karen personality disorder. A personality disorder in the DSM-5 called Karen. There's another thing that I don't know if any of you are Seinfeld fans, but when, after she after she testified yesterday, I could not get this clip out of my mind. I have to show you that. This is the clip that just
What's the matter?
I think I may have made a big mistake.
Come on, what's the matter?
not the best idea. It was like, she contradicted herself so many times, and then the prosecution gets up and shows how many different times she impeached herself. Yeah, things that make you go, I'm bringing this screen back up now, so because they should be coming back any moment. Oh, they are? I didn't know that, Bogart. Interesting. Well, traditionally, the NRA wins those arguments, and we have a very, very conservative Supreme Court right now. So I kind of I have a tendency to believe that the NRA is going to get their way, whatever happens. You know where what is. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. I'm embarrassed that I know where this is, and this is my state. Yeah, so I just don't think, I think that we probably would still, most likely would still be sitting. Oh, where this actually happened, Clayton County. Yeah. I have a tendency to believe that this still would have happened would it have happened if it was a white person? That's a question. That's a good question to ask. I don't know. I really don't know. I just think it's impossible for a court to. It takes a lot for a court to prove that there was hate involved. So what do you all think? Do you think she's going to be found guilty? I think, I think the lawyer, was able to pick apart some of the holes that the prosecution was able to poke in terms of, Hannah has contradicted herself many, many times. But then the defense attorney was able to show where the officer didn't remember, did remember, wasn't remembering things correctly. But the thing is that the officer is not the one who is on trial. Let's see, I don't know either, but I find no other motive for this crime and for her lies and lies and lies and attempts to tamper with. Well, so after the incident takes place, her motive for lying and lying and lying would be to just get out of being punished. So, I would say her other motive was her being really dumb and thinking that she is some sort of vigilante do-gooder cop. And she thought that he was she thought he was inebriated. She thought he was impaired and that she was going to save the world by stopping him and getting him back. And, she was filled with rage because she witnessed the accident. And then he drove away from the accident, and she also felt that she was she felt that he was impaired and a danger, and she felt entitled. And she's using these excuses that she has from the cop telling her, the off-duty officer that was on scene saying, go, go, go. Oh, I have permission to go, go, go. She assumed a hell of a lot. She didn't have good intention. Well, yeah, I could honestly see, I can honestly see both sides of this argument. I really, really could. Like, I could sit here and have this argument with you. I could sit here and argue on the side of this was racially motivated, and, you can't see any other motive. And I could argue on the other side as well. You know what I mean? It's really hard. It's really, really hard. But the bottom line is that it was totally unnecessary. It was totally unnecessary for her to be some sort of, female Karen vigilante, uh, and, I just think our popular media and our popular culture, we doesn't do like the fictional TV and the series that we put out, and the action series and the detective movies and stuff like that, don't kind of do our culture a disservice by depicting these like badass strongmen detectives who can do anything. And, they will sometimes push the boundaries of the law to get, the right thing done. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, let's push this boundary. Well, I can push this boundary because I'm doing it in the interest of the law, in the interest in the greater good. And that sends the wrong message. You know, well, it looks like they're coming back. I see what you mean, Trauma Punks.
Okay, before we bring the jurors back in, I want to make everyone aware in the courtroom that it has been brought to my attention that there may have been an attempt to make contact with one of the jurors.
Uh-oh.
I just want to instruct you all that it is not appropriate. I did give those instructions at the beginning of the case. And so no one is to make contact with the jurors. They're here because they're committed to fulfilling their civil duty to sit on this case. And it's not appropriate for anyone to try to make contact with them while they're sitting as jurors on this case. Anyone who tries to do that, part of what I can do is that you will forfeit your right to be in the courtroom. Among any other measures that the court deems appropriate. So everyone is advised. Thank you. Okay, counsels, are we ready to proceed?
Yeah, Judge.
Okay, David Finnis, you can bring the jurors.
And Judge, while they're coming in, just for timing purposes, we're not going to ask any additional questions and we'll rest.
Okay, so, okay.
Oh, the prosecution rests. Okay. So the prosecution is going to rest when the jury comes in. So I wonder if that means they're going to go right into closing arguments. But I wonder who attempted to contact a juror, and that has now been put on the court record. So there's potential for a mistrial in the future that could be brought up for appeal. Unless it was one of Hannah's family members or, you know, part of her side.
Thank you. You may be seated. Does the state have any redirect for this witness?
Judge, I appreciate the time to consider that. The state has no further questions of this witness, and we would ask that he be excused and be allowed to return to North Carolina.
Yes. You're excused. Yes, you're welcome. Safe travels.
Mr. Sharp-dressed man is from North Carolina
The
now.
state has no further rebuttal and rests.
Okay. Okay, so at this juncture, all the evidence is in, and the court at this point will conduct what is known as our charge conference with counsels in this case, and therefore it is an appropriate time to allow you to have your lunch break.
Oh, okay.
It's now 12:05. I would instruct you to be back by 1:45 p.m. Again, the instructions that I've previously given still apply. And so you're on break at this time. Have a good lunch, and I'll see you back at 1:45. Thank you. Thank you for adhering to the time frames. Oh, before you go, before everyone goes, let me just apprise you of what's going to occur next. Of course, we will do our charge conference so that we're agreed as to what charges you will be given. And then both the state and defense counsel will be able to give you what is known as closing arguments. And then we will release the case to you at that point. So that's what you can anticipate this afternoon. Have a good lunch.
All righty. See if there's anything else interesting happens here. When you hear that throat clearing, that's from the court. It's not me. It kind of sounds like me a little bit. Like the person has a similar sounding clearing throat voice, but it's not me. But it sounds like somebody attempted to make contact with a juror, and I'm assuming that it was on Hannah's side, and I'm assuming that it was not her lawyer, because he would know better, right? So they can claim complete ignorance, but by now they should know. Like, they've been going through these court proceedings for a while now.
councils, can we move into our charge conference?
Yes, Judge, I'll be handling the charge conferences.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Attorney Tucker, did you receive that email?
I did, Your Honor.
Okay.
I did receive the state's comments. I'm in full agreement with that. I had an example of a jury charge that I was going to go through and see. I think for the most part, it is in order for those charges to be wonder where to put it.
Okay.
I was going to propose to the court and to the state that from the previous cases, the previous
I don't know, Scott.
jury charges, this is where I would suggest it goes, and it's a curious suggestion to take it or how the court wants it. I believe the state made the most, went through it and said there's certain highlights on certain things that, you know, I agree.
Okay, would it help to have a printed copy?
Yes, ma'am.
It would?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, let me arrange for that. How about you, Chief Assistant? Do you need a printed copy?
I don't want to waste another
Tree?
50 pages. I'm fine.
It shouldn't be, it's not, let's cut that.
It's 52.
Okay, I'm not super interested in watching these proceedings, and I want to take a break. My poor dog is dying to go for a walk and stuff. So I'm going to do that, and we'll come back for the closing arguments. So I will see you in, at maybe a little bit before 1:45 Eastern. And until then, enjoy yourselves and be safe. And good to see you too. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. And I will see you on the flip side. Please remember to hit the thumbs up on your way out. Thank you.